Hey, this is Tilak. Welcome back to System Extract tutorial. Still we are in introduction. This is the third tutorial. This tutorial also about the technical aspect of the first tutorial we defined. If you haven't seen the first tutorial, please go and see that because without that, this is just a continuation. Without that, you may not understand. Okay. Well, I go to the My Client group and I go to the data exchange. And before I get into the extract, basically this is what we are going to look at. That let me tell you what we are going to look into that. Okay, you might have seen we had a three user entities. This is the route user entity, and this is the record user entity. And this has got a, like we have taken one example, the name person ID, and from coming from a name for the history name, the other one comes from this one. So now this is what we are going to look into that. Now we'll see the detail of how how this related to that extract and all this stuff. So for that, we are going to get into look view user entity. Okay. Here, though we know that user entity, we cannot search the user entity. Honestly speaking, they have to improve a lot about this search. This is it is really hard. Well, I'm going to, because it's a key search, so I'm going to look for person. Okay. Okay. If you are looking at that, the first one is per ext sec person UE. That is the per ext sec person UE. Okay, this is basically what they do here is they bring the mostly used the most popular the UE within the person first. So basically what we have here is a email, and we have to find the historical name somewhere. We can find that. Do we have history? Okay, we'll come to that. Okay, first we look at this one. Now, when you are looking at what I said is the UE or user identity are related to a route, and the route is where we define the SQL. Now, this says user identity. This one, the description is the person date as effective date as of effective date. Now, let me go into the user entity query. Okay. Now, whenever you are running this into extract, this is the SQL is basically executed, which is coming from per all people f, per person type f, that is per, and person type is pptm. So basically this table and this alias you have to know. If you know only, then only you can put a more validation into that. Okay. So what it says per all people f per, and per person types per national identifier, the basically is coming from three different tables. And the effective latest changes, because since it is per all people F, why do they need it? I don't know, because already this per all people F is I don't know. Okay, PPTM. Okay, M. Is this coming per person types use M? That's the reason they are putting a okay. Is the M is latest change? Yes. Primary ID. This is right. Then it is also basically using a context. Okay. If you know what is context, how it works, again I tell you, please go and look at my fast formula introduction. That clearly explained. Here they have only one context, so it means this is, and they are validating that effective date. So the effective date is validated. This is the M table, that is latest change is validated. So the context we need is the effective date. Okay, now let's see. And okay, PPTM, sorry, both are there. PPTM as well as the PPTM as well as this is the effective date is validated with the one context. The one context is, if you are looking at the context set, it is no, this is not the context is required context. If you are looking at that, it says only the effective date. So basically, if you want to run this SQL, you have to pass this effective date. That is what we are passing through the the parameter effective date to run this SQL. Okay, this has got a lot of SQL, so there may be having application number, business ID, person ID. The person ID is coming as a person ID here. This is what we are using to validate. Now, what is happening here is when you are having a parent and child, now to run this SQL, you are using a setting a context effective date. Now to run a child SQL, you may need a further context. Now how that's it? Okay, person ID, probably you need a person ID to run a further SQLs. So how that's it? So now you have to understand what are the contexts this is setting for his child SQL. That is where you can find out from a context set. Now, if you are using as a parent, you can use all the child query that uses enterprise ID, organization ID, and the person ID. So the parent also, the effective data also set. So basically, what are the things setting here is whatever the parent is setting plus enterprise ID, organization ID, person ID. So forget about enterprise ID, organization ID. What we need is a person ID. So the child SQL automatically inherit the context of person ID and the effective date from this parent UE, I mean user entity. Okay, that is what you have to understand. So you know what is the SQL executed and what is the SQL executed for what validation as a context and what are the contexts it is setting for its child. This is you understood. Now from this SQL, what are we getting out of it? This is the database item. Okay, this is the database item. This is what you are getting it, the application number and everything. Now you don't know what column it is there. I'll tell you a different application like now that tell you. I'll give just a. I'll send you a make you understanding. I'll show one more application where basically I'll take few names, so then I can tell you what is coming from what. Okay, next and I give something called a person number. I'll give a few. And let me see name. I don't know what. Okay. Okay, started. All the threes I'm having applicant number. This is the three. I will explain you how that this is related to what column. I'll explain you. Now, okay. Now we got the database item. Now, but database item cannot be used. Now, what we are using here is okay. It is says extract person. Okay, now what we are using is probably database item group, but unfortunately here they don't do a default display. Let me talk to them, like if they can do that by default like a database item display, that would be nice. Okay, let me talk to the guys. Okay, and here we say that is it starting with extract? I hope so, because the database item names are starting with extract. Yeah, okay. Now what it's showing here is attribute name, extract attribute. No, it is not starting from extract person. No, it's okay. It is says attribute name is extract. Yeah, extract person ID. See that attribute names are extract. That is coming from a okay. Now okay, this also shows what are the entity like user entity is coming from here. If you see that extract person name, extract person last update, extract person legal entity, extract person number, these are things you can use it. Okay, which is coming from the same. Okay, now this is what you are going to choose it. Okay, now you got it. Now let me show where the information is coming from. Okay, this you won't get it. This is my own application I developed for my own purpose. Is you are not going to find it anywhere. Okay, this is so like don't ask me where you find it. Let me go to the database item list. Let me choose information here for you. Okay, now say this is where the UE is. This is where this is that applicant number, per applicant number. Where is per is coming from? See that. Where is the per is coming from? I'll show you per. Okay, Now, person secured list V is a per. We are using this one, per person secured list V, the view, this is what the per is. This is where that information is coming from. You got the per applicant number is coming from per ext person, per ext sec person UE. This is the SQL list for that route is used, and per applicant number is coming from the per applicant number is the columns coming from. So now we look at the other one. Let me cut it. Okay, now if you are looking for the per person number, okay, now earlier we see the applicant number, now this is a person number. Okay, now this is also, let me go over that. Okay, now per start date. If you look at the start date, is a start date. Now, okay, now let me show you what are the possible information can come from this entity name. See that. Now you can have a business group ID created by all this information. You can get it from here. Last update date, start date, primary national identifier, person type ID, person ID. All these you can use it. Okay, you have to find out this is the database item. Thus you have to find out the data equal to group. Or if you want to use a filter, then you can use like per all these columns you can use for validating into your that filter. This is how it works. Okay, again I'm telling you this is not available anywhere. Okay, now we'll go back to our one, the second, this one where what is happening here. Okay, now look at the email address. We go for an email address. Now what is the email address is doing? User entity query. Basically this has got a, where is the select blah 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 blah, all the stuff select. Okay, now it is coming from per email address ID, email ID. Okay, now the effective date is here. Now this doesn't have a person. Okay, person ID also basically validated. You got, so basically automatically the person ID is equal to the person ID is passed here. So this is basically coming for only one person ID. You got, so it has got two contexts. One is the effective date context and the person ID context. The person ID context coming from the parent or whatever the relation you are setting it, that is also working. Okay, context, it doesn't set further any context. Okay, what is the required context? So basically it need effective date and the person ID. Okay, the P1 is basically a description, the P2 is a person ID. That's the context is getting used. Now what are the database item getting used here? Now again the email ID and all the stuff is coming here. So we can also put a, so I'm basically getting the name from the description. That's what I'm getting it. Extract. Or is a person? I think it is a person, I believe. No. But this is the other problem I'm seeing here practically, like, you know, this description says extract. Here it is starting with person. So you have to know how it's okay. Now the person, it is having a all person email ID, person ID, person ID, payroll person action ID. All this information is coming from. Okay, this is coming from wrong places. Basically, what you are getting is the extract email person ID. That is what you are getting it. Anyway, there's some confusion. I'm never like, you know, I always depend on my own this one. This is a bit confusion area because the name says personal email address ID. So when I put a person, I'm not able to see it here for the context. Okay, I'm not, let me put an extract. So the extract is coming for email ID, but then why that name says personal email address? Okay, anyway, okay. this is how you know the database group and all the stuff. Okay. Now you understood how the entity and how the entity context and how everything is related. That part is clear to you. And what we do, I think this is enough for this lesson. The next lesson, we also look into that, how to add more validations, and we also look into that how the formula is created. That we'll see it in our next lesson. Okay, bye.